Today, what we're going to be talking about is the difference between getting your license online versus in the classroom and some of the pros and cons of that. So this video is recorded exclusively for Real Estate Bees, and which is a one-of-a-kind real estate platform dedicated to helping industry professionals skyrocket their business. Now, let's dive in, TJ. Hey everyone, I am Jen Murtland with Team Synergy at EXP, and I work out of Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky. And my co-host today is
TJ Gausman. How are you? I'm a local realtor here in Cincinnati.
Yes, and his team is called
TJ Gausman Group.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about online classes right now. So just like give us an overview of like what the online classes are, and then we'll dive into some pros and cons of those.
Yeah, so essentially, the real estate schools, typically there's a couple ways they can do it. So they can have in-person learning, which is traditional, right? Where you go to the classes at set times, you have an instructor, you sit with a group of people. So that's very traditional. Then there's the online option, which has really become much bigger of late. Over the last few years, you see it a ton more. And that's going to be completely independent. Typically, there's nothing in person. It's not any kind of a hybrid. It's one or the other. And then, there's some schools that are exclusive online, but most of them do both. So they kind of give you an option, which is nice, depending on your style.
Right, that's nice. And I found too that they're basically the same cost. I don't think that they charge differently.
Yeah, that's my experience as well. Yeah, now there are some cheaper brands, but it's not based on the type of learning is what I've seen. So it's just going to be dependent on.
Yeah, like really choosing like which style is best for you. So let's dive into some like pros and cons. So what are your pros to online learning?
So the biggest things about online learning for me were flexibility. So I did online learning myself. Flexibility was a big one. So at the time, and like most of us, when we're getting our real estate license, a lot of us have other careers at the time.
Right.
So you really have to work around that. And it was nice because I could just jump in when I wanted to. I could really go
because
hard.
They're not live.
Exactly.
Right. So yeah, that is a pro, that it is a lot more flexible for your schedule. I mean, I would say to that, because they're not live, the con would be they're not live. Like you still, like if you have a question to ask, it may take longer for the question to get answered, or you may have to dig through like a frequently asked questions or like something like that in order to get to what you want to know.
Yeah, I mean, I think you nail it. There's a decent amount of cons on both sides, in my opinion, and this is why this is actually a decent topic. So the fact that you can't ask questions to a live instructor,
right?
There's no networking, right?
Yeah, no camaraderie.
No camaraderie. And there's also even networking with the instructors. At least in my market, they're taught by realtors.
Right.
So, you get the opportunity to meet some realtors, hear about some brokerages. So there's none of that. That's something that you lose a little bit of.
But I think like when I'm choosing, and we'll talk about the live classes, but when I first got my license, I went to the live class. I don't even know if they had online, but at the time, I mean, this was a lot of years ago. So at the time that wasn't like a way to learn, not as common as it is now. But for my post-licensing courses, like my continuing education courses, I'm strictly online because I like that I can do it at my own pace. It's not, and a lot of times you can go through them faster. So like if I understand a topic, I can skip through it instead of having to like, skip to the end. No, but like skip through it instead of having to like dive deep into a topic that I already know about. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, right. So, I mean, you want to focus the amount of hours that it says is the amount of hours. Like it's real estate if it's 3 hours, but you're not going to spend 5 hours on something you can do in 3, is I think what you're trying to say, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with
Something
you.
like that. It's close to
Yeah,
that, yeah.
sure.
So I think they're offering online courses for everything. So CE, pre-licensing, post-licensing, I mean, everything, right? Have you seen any that are not offered online
No,
as
the way I know it, if you can do it in person, you can do it online. And the other thing I will say about like online, especially with the pre-licensing, which is going to be dramatically more than you're going to do once you're licensed, right? You're going to do
right?
essentially 12 hours a year is
Yeah,
what it comes down to. But pre-licensing, it's a ton of information. There's a lot to it. Some of it's pretty deep and not
yeah.
awesomely interesting, right?
Boring, I think is what you mean. Yes.
Boring, that's the word I couldn't come with. But I think that online it's easy to kind of just skip through or
Yeah.
not focus, and like you get tested on this stuff, right? We need to
Right. So
know it.
you might not retain it,
Correct, correct.
but pro for online is like, let's say you're getting licensed in another state. It could be a lot easier. I mean, it's going to be a lot easier than having to go to that state every time there's a class, you know?
Yeah, I mean that's a no-brainer, and it's given us that opportunity to get licensed in places that we aren't, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
I've also noticed that a lot of the schools now don't allow you to skip, they don't allow you to fast forward, so they're actually making you do the work, which is good. I mean, ultimately we learn
Yeah.
it because we need to know it, right?
But you could also be doing your laundry. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, yeah, they
That's
haven't solved that
flexibility.
problem yet. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Okay. So I think we're saying, like, just to wrap it up, the pros of it is we both think hands down the flexibility of the online learning is like the pro. And I think that we both agree that the negative is just like the being with people piece and all that comes with that, and like asking questions, networking, things like that.
Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty well.
Okay, so let's talk about in-person classes. And this is how, I mean, this is the only way to do, was the only way to do it back in the day. You had to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I think up until about 5 or 6 years ago,
Yeah,
online wasn't that prevalent.
no,
Um, yeah, so this is not like something that's been here for a while. It's definitely a newer way to learn.
exactly. So I think like we said, the cost, it was the same. We don't know of anything that would, why it would be different. Um, and then the pros of online are, I mean, obviously you get to, like we said, you get to network, you get to connect with other agents that are
Yeah,
coming
in
in,
person.
connect with the
Yeah.
in-person. Yeah, I think like for me, when I'm learning something that I don't know, I think it's just a lot easier because I can focus more if I'm there, rather than like if I'm at home or whatever, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, like, a lot of these classes are done after work, right?
Hmm.
So, like, you're beat, you've
Right.
got the wife, family, kids, whatever your story is, all
Hmm.
that's there. It's not easy to
Right.
carve out time, and this is almost like it forces you to carve out time and do
Yes.
it in X amount of time, so we don't
Yes.
procrastinate
So
and
if you're a
not be licensed for a year.
procrastinator, we recommend in person.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I really think so, and or if you're someone that yeah, if you're not a good time manager,
Mhm.
or you don't have a good space to do online learning, like just do the classes. It's not bad. They're not horrible. They're actually kind of interesting.
They are.
Um,
But I also
yeah,
think too, like one of the topics that most new agents has struggled with is the math portion. And I think if you're not a math person, the online might be a little tough.
yeah. So, and I even found like, yeah, because there's appraisal. You're dealing with appraisal, which is a lot of math, the way that it's taught.
Mhm.
Uh, and the law, like if you're somebody that is not kind of a deep diver, you're not a good retainer when it comes to like kind of the intricate stuff.
Yeah.
Those are the areas probably where you're going to find yourself in la la land, where your head kind of escapes.
Right. You're just like,
Um,
bye.
yeah, and there are some schools that allow you to do hybrid too. So, that's something to consider, that you could find the best of both worlds there.
Yeah. And I think like for a con for being there is just like sometimes they're not very conveniently located. So I remember like where mine was, I mean, it was more than 30 minutes away. And it's like such a pain because, like you said, it's either like it's like after work or whatever. I mean, it's like during rush hour and then you're tired and you're just sitting there all day. You can't really take, I mean, you could take the breaks that they give you, but like, whereas you're online, you can stop it, you know, all this stuff. Like here, you're just, you have to do it while you're there. And that's like kind of can be difficult for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, it's not an hour a night. It's 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock here where we live.
Right.
You know, 4 hours after work, you're getting home late. It's not perfect. I don't think
Right.
there's a better way with the traditional work schedule to do it. So yeah, that's something that you're going to be
Or
willing to
I did
sacrifice.
mine from like, mine were all day. So I did like 3 weeks, but it was like 9 to 4 or whatever every day. It was
Yeah,
like,
and
oh my God.
that's brutal. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you've got to be ready. But you know, the cool thing about it is once you're done, you can go and make a ton of money and sell a bunch of houses. So there's a
Exactly,
quick
exactly.
turnaround. Yeah.
I think the I mean, I think the amount of time takes whatever you allocate to it, because that's one thing people always ask, like, how long does it take to get your real estate license? I mean, if you did it like back to back to back, I think most of the programs are like 3 weeks. But if you're going to only do it like on the weekends, or you're only going to do it like at night, it's going to just take you longer. And if you miss a class, you got to wait for it to come back around if you're doing in person. But if you're online, you could probably take it a lot easier, you know?
Yeah, and I would be interested to find out like who does it quicker. If we looked at on, my guess is in person actually gets licensed quicker
You think
because
so?
you're forced to
You're
do it. You know,
forced.
people will, yeah. Um,
You're
I
probably
think
right.
mine was about 5 weeks, I think, and I did it all online. But yeah, if I mean, I can't say that enough. If you're a procrastinator, do the in person
Definitely. And
because
if you're
it will
serious
get
about
you.
getting licensed, because you
Yeah,
don't, that's the other thing, like you don't want to start it and not ever end. You know,
yeah.
like you want to start it, you want to get the information, retain it. Then that's the thing. And that's what I want to talk about next is like, what are some tips for like passing this test? You know what I mean? So I think let's summarize up the in person. The in person is a lot less flexible for the people that procrastinate, and you get to hang out with people if you're like a social butterfly. And then the cons are that you have to go there.
Yeah, yeah.
Who
That's a
wants to
big
leave their
con.
house anymore?
You have to attend, and you're limited to their schedule, their location.
Yeah, that's true. Good. Okay, so when people talk to us about like how can I pass the test, there's this like joke amongst realtors that it's like, okay, we'll just learn it. They're only teaching you how to pass the test, then forget everything and we'll teach you like the real world when you come back out. And that's like
Yeah.
kind of true, but there are definitely some things in there that like you need to retain, you know?
Yes, I completely agree. And you know, it's about the foundation. I think
Mhm.
sometimes, like especially as realtors, like we do get a little jaded. Like, well, they don't, they don't tell you what you really need to know.
Well, they don't teach
But
you how to open a lockbox, and we all learn that when it's raining and there's no cover and we're trying to open a stupid lockbox.
true story. Yeah. And but they give you the foundation of understanding the whys, the details of some of the
The
things that we do. Like,
concepts too of
yeah,
what
the
we're doing.
concepts. I think that's
Yeah,
a good way to look at it. And you know, there are some things that we use that we just don't realize that we use that we learn.
yeah.
So you know,
We don't
it's
use
not
that
everything.
equation though that they teach us for acreage,
We don't. We don't.
and that was on
Um,
the test.
yeah, I don't remember that to this
You
day.
don't?
Yeah. No. Oh my gosh. No, there's so much I don't remember. But at the time, I knew it well because I didn't want to take it twice.
Right.
Because you got to pay for it twice.
Yeah, exactly. But I think like what's served most of the people that I know, the best way to study for the test and to pass the first time, because a number of people don't pass the first time, but I think that's more about the anxiety of the test taking than it is because I mean most of us are adults, and the last time that we took a test was like a long time ago. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you're
So
right.
you're anxious. So what I found what would calm me down is just practicing the test. So there's like some practice tests online. There's some YouTube channels that have practice tests. They sometimes will give you some like, you know, some practice tests like on a CD or thumb drive or whatever. And if you just practice those, and once you start scoring like above a 90%, like you are good, just take it and go.
Yeah, I think you're right on. The I I not only took the practice test, there was like a cram session. It was
Yeah,
branded. I don't remember,
I did
but you
that.
know, you remember, it's just like a ton of test stuff. Um, and then when I took the test, a lot of the wording is different. That's the
Yes.
hard thing, because you're like, are
Yeah.
they trying to trick me? But the bottom line is, like, if you understand the concepts,
Mhm.
you can put it together. And you know, you walk out like, did I do okay? Did I not? And you did okay. If you can do a
Yeah.
90, you can get a 75.
Yeah,
I
and I
agree.
think too, right, and I think you're looking for patterns too. Like whenever they use like this word in the question, they're looking for this word in the answer. And that's what practicing and going to these cram sessions and engaging with the professors and asking them what what some of the questions are, that's will help your brain learn what the test wants so that you can't pass.
Yeah, and you know, there's no shortcut, I think, is the other piece. Like, you have
What?
to
There's no
actually,
magic
yeah.
pill?
No, just like real estate, you actually have to work. We always talk about that. But
Exactly.
yeah, you're gonna have to actually put time aside to study and repetition and the things that you do to pass the test. And the cool thing is that once you pass it, you never have to worry about it again. Just continue your education, keep it
Right.
simple. It really is a one-time pain in the butt, and then we're
And then you're
licensed and we're good to
done.
go. You're done.
Exactly. Cool. Well, we hope this helps people figure out what avenue they want to take. And thanks for being on, TJ.
My pleasure. Thanks, Jen.